Welcome to People, Places, and Parables, highlighting people and the positive effect they have in our community.
Hey, this is Chris with People, Places, and Parables, the Positive Podcast. I have the honor of having Doug Dunbar here, the founder of Penobscot County Cares. For those of you just tuning in, you may or may not know that I am the founder of Welcome to Housing. Doug has been an incredible advocate for us. He helped get us in touch with the Penobscot County Commission when the American Rescue Plan Act money came through, and we were the recipients of 2 grants, which now helped us put into effect a solar system, a solar panel array up at our warehouse. Doug, good evening. It's so nice to see you. How are you doing
Good
tonight?
to be here. I'm doing well. Thank you for all that you do and for creating this podcast to spread information and positivity far and wide. So happy to be here. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Now, for those of you who don't know, Penobscot County Cares is an alliance of any and all nonprofits within Penobscot County, but we have a lot of visitors from out there. But Doug, if you could identify the 3 major factors that went into starting it, what were the 3 things that made you want to get it off the ground?
Well, I grew up in Bangor and had a very nice upbringing, but I always suffered in silence, couldn't tell anyone that I was dealing with a mental health issue, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD. Mm-hmm. And it really ruled my life in a lot of ways, but I just managed with it. And the other thing while growing up, I was very interested in government and politics and trying to help other people. My mother was always helping someone, always contributing to some organization or volunteering for this or that. So anyway, interested in government and politics, got involved in that through campaigns in high school and college, and then it led to a 30-year career. And throughout that career, I was always trying to manage my obsessive compulsive disorder without getting help, without talking about it. Particularly years ago in the 70s, 80s, 90s, people were not as open about mental health issues as they are today. And we still have more work to do on that, of course. But back then, in particular, a lot of it was just kept to ourselves. So when 9/11 happened, and I know this seems like going all over the place, but it all ties together. When 9/11 happened, 25 years ago this September, hard to believe, I was working in Congress for then Congressman John Baldacci, who represented this part of Maine before becoming governor. He was in Congress for 8 years, and I helped to run his campaigns, and I was his press secretary in Washington, and I lived not too far from the Pentagon, where one of the planes sadly crashed on 9/11, and that caused my OCD to spiral out of control, and I began privately self-medicating with alcohol, again telling no one, and keeping it very secretive. For 16 years, I self-medicated. So I was dealing with my OCD, my self-medication, which turned into alcoholism. I was working now, moved back to Maine to work in the governor's office, then I became Maine's chief deputy secretary of state. And my alcohol use became so bad, I couldn't stop drinking and driving. Fortunately, I never harmed anyone. But I eventually spent 5.5 months, 5 months or so, I guess it was. It seemed a lot longer at the time, but maybe about 5 months in jail. Mm-hmm. And while I was in jail, it opened my eyes to so many of the issues that we were failing to address as a society, and I was failing to address in my own life. Substance use disorder, in my case alcohol, other mental health issues. Substance use disorder is categorized as a mental health issue, as you know, but other mental health issues like my OCD. And then the other thing I learned in jail was that so many people are there because of homelessness or deep poverty, often generational poverty. So that's a long way of saying that Penobscot County Cares came about because of my own experiences and time in jail and learning that homelessness and substance use disorder and other mental health issues in our communities really drive so many problems. They fill up our jails, they lead to so many premature deaths, and really, tax our families and communities in so many ways. They just ripple through our communities.
And it's amazing, too, because I was really lucky. When I started Welcome to Housing, I never wanted to want, but I went through a lot of bullying I stopped drinking because a friend of mine, fortunately, I never had alcoholism take over my life like it did my brother Greg, who passed away a couple of Februarys ago. It's just amazing, though, and I think the toughest thing that you and I have seen in society now. Yes, there's a lot more awareness, but there's also still a lot of stigma. The horrible attitude that, oh, somebody wakes up in the morning, and I love what Dennis Leary said. Dennis Leary is a really caustic comic, and he talked about cocaine. He said, where can I find something that's going to drain my bank account, shrivel me down below, and make my heart explode? Where do I sign up? Because there's so many people out there. One of the people that I'm really proud to know is Amanda. For those of you who remember Invisible People, if you haven't seen it, go into YouTube, look up Invisible People. This is a woman that was out in Seattle, couldn't afford a hotel stay, and she had, I believe, a neurological procedure that needed to be done. She couldn't afford a hotel. She was literally living under a bridge in Seattle. And Seattle is where the term Skid Row originally came from. Well, flash forward, she's not only healthy and successful now, she's also advocating for others. So that's why everybody, myself included, loves you, Doug, because you have the empathy and the understanding. And I think one of the things that I've seen when I've done Welcome to Housing, going back, doing toilet paper drives, for instance, down at Shaw's, is how many people I run into that are homeless. They're intelligent, they're smart, they've either had an issue that's kept them from being able to hold a job or hold down a place to live. But a lot of times people think it's decisions. And it's not always decisions. It's a combination that's intertwined. And give me a little bit of a background of I remember when you first started, it seems to me you mentioned you had a co-founder or something like that. I remember the news conferences I wasn't able to make because of my mobility issues. But tell me a little bit about how it literally got started with other people, because it's grown quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, you're so right about the stigma issue, and I'm afraid social media, in many ways, even though there's a great deal of positivity on social media, it also can fuel and really inflame misunderstanding and stigma, and we can talk more about that because it's a real problem. Stigma, you're absolutely right, So Penobscot County Cares as an organization really was never intended. What happened in September of 2021, the problems around homelessness and substance use disorder and other mental health issues that I really became focused on when I was in jail and when I got out. And when I left jail, by the way, I went into a treatment court program, the Penobscot County Adult Treatment and Recovery Court. And that really helped me. And there's an organization in Bangor, I should note, Wellspring. It's a substance use treatment provider, and they are the provider for the Penobscot County Treatment Court. And it was very helpful to me. And then I started to get, regular good mental health care, and I'm able now to deal with my OCD without drinking. It's been 8.5 years since I drank anything.
Proud of you.
Well, thank you. But by the fall of 2021, we were, still in COVID period of time, and those issues, homelessness, substance use disorder, other mental health issues that I really, focused on leaving jail, were worse than ever. And it appeared, because of the aftermath of COVID, that those things might get worse. And that was true. They got worse. But in September 2021, myself and someone who worked at an organization that no longer exists in the Bangor area, unfortunately, called Health Equity Alliance, she and I got together and said, hey, these problems have never been worse, but we've never had so much money coming from the federal government through what you mentioned, the American Rescue Plan Act. The acronym is ARPA. So $50 million were coming to Bangor and Penobscot County. $30 million to the county, $20 million to Bangor. That's a lot of money for Penobscot County. So we got about 30 organizations together and wrote up a statement and had a press conference that said, please, City of Bangor, Penobscot County, others in the state, all counties were getting money. Please focus on those issues because they're going to get worse. They've never been as bad as they were right then. And if you don't address them now, it'll be more expensive and more costly in terms of human lives in the future. Unfortunately, the city and the county really didn't act right away. And yes, some of the money thankfully went to Welcome to Housing and other organizations, but a lot of it really didn't go to those issues. And unfortunately, the issues or the problems really have gotten worse in many ways. We have many more individuals experiencing homelessness in Bangor and Penobscot County than we did in the fall of 2021. We've had so many overdose deaths, and that's getting better in most of Maine, but not in Penobscot County. So there's still a lot of work to do. I thought when we held that press conference that would be it. We would say, the problems have never been worse, but we've got all this money now. Let's get at it.
And you think people would step up to the plate?
Yeah,
even more so.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, that didn't happen right away. So we kept meeting every other Thursday, and more organizations joined, and so what it has evolved into is a way for agencies and organizations and individuals to get together every 2 weeks, share information, make new connections, try to begin collaborations, try to problem solve. And I know a number of people and organizations who have benefited from Welcome to Housing because they came to a Penobscot County Cares meeting and learned about you and the nonprofit and were able to benefit from it through those meetings. So it's really about connecting dots, connecting people, and that's what we've been doing every 2 weeks. And then lastly, about 2 years ago, in addition to the meetings, which was the primary purpose of Penobscot County Cares after that original press conference, we started providing direct services to people after identifying gaps. And one of the gaps that we noted was communications, cellular phones. A lot of people who are struggling and seeking help don't have a cellular phone. So their case manager or their housing navigator or their treatment provider really has trouble reaching them, and they have trouble reaching their service providers. So we have distributed almost 500 phones.
That's wonderful.
Mostly to case managers and housing navigators and healthcare providers. And they have then given that phone to the person they're trying to keep in touch with. And I've heard from many of those service providers that it really has made a difference. So we're going to keep at it.
That's wonderful. We're hoping to work with an agency that's made up of Husson University students. I've been talking online with Nancy Roberts. I think one of the challenges that we see, and it's this with the stigma, and the thing that I try to nip in the bud. We've got 7 separate social media sites, and I think the problem is a lot of people feel that they have a voice when they're on social media, but there's still enough anonymity. Some of the comments, negative statements, you would never go to a city council or to a meeting of an organization or go to a support group and say some of the rancid, vitriol-filled things like that. I'm really excited to be a part of it for the simple reason, I have several reasons. I mentioned my brother. My brother Greg, his third and final long-term relationship, she was an alcoholic as well, but she didn't believe in AA. I've been to AA because I worked at Hope House. I love what they do. It's the most supportive thing. One of the people that was in the news a lot, unfortunately, because of his background, was Reverend Bob. But he pointed out years ago that when people say, "Oh, it's too religious," no, it's not religious. It's spiritual. We're all in this together. You think about like William Shatner going up in space, and everyone's like, "Oh, wow, all the stars and all this." He's looking back at the planet. Here's a Star Trek icon looking back at the planet and feeling sad because it's such a fragile environment, and we need to learn to get along. And what I'm so proud of, you mentioned Wellspring. Furniture banks, the biggest challenge nationally. I learned this from going online to a national convention. Biggest challenge is finding able-bodied people during the day, during the week. Because if you're able-bodied during the day, during the week, chances are you're making an income at a job. But we've been working with Wellspring. I recently met their interim director, and we're going to be trying to work with the Women's House and the Women's and Children's House to help out at the warehouse, also to help out with tabling events. If you could share a little bit about these tabling events, the resource fairs, I absolutely love those for two reasons. Number one, you're reducing stigma, you're educating people. Number three, if you're in a public place like the Bangor Library and you have a table with brochures, that's how years ago we found Joe Lawler. Joe Lawler is our web designer. He's our marketing person. He's been volunteering for us since 2011. So I would love to hear more about some of the resource fairs and places like the Barn and others and Food and Medicine. All these great things going on, and people need to know about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes, we think, and I used to think, that I knew about all of the resources, all of the organizations that existed, and thought I was really well informed about all that they do. But through meetings of Penobscot County Cares and going to resource fairs, I have learned that I certainly don't know about all of the resources. And even almost 5 years into facilitating Penobscot County Cares and all the meetings that we've held, I still learn about new services, new resources, new programs that are happening. So again, some of us think we know it all, but we often don't. So resource fairs are really important. What we need to do, however, is get more people to those events. There's one that's been happening for a few years now, at least a few years. It's every month. Right now it's happening at the Bangor Public Library the second Wednesday of each month. Food and Medicine, located in Brewer, is the primary organization that puts that on. But connecting the people who need those services with those events is still a bit of a challenge. And if you can get people through the doors to meet face-to-face with some of the service providers, it can make all the difference in the world. And so, yeah, every month, second Wednesday of the month, I think from 9 to 12.
I believe so.
And we try to promote it the best we can. And we also tell people, if you can't get to the resource fair, just send an email or just send a text to Penobscot County Cares. And even though we don't know everything, we now know about a lot of the service, a lot of the providers, know them personally, and can connect the dots for individuals. So I'll just say it right now, if you don't mind, Penobscot County Cares, all one word, Penobscot County Cares at gmail.com. That's the email address. And to send a text, it's 207-299-5626. Again, 207-299-5626. So if you're an individual or you're with an organization and you're looking for some sort of service or resource, contact us. You can certainly contact 211, which is a statewide resource provider, or go online to 211.org. But if you're in the area and you think you have a stupid question, send it our way. We're happy to try to help.
No, after 21 years as a real estate agent, that was one of the first things I would tell people. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If you don't understand something, ask. And the thing that and the reason I smile, there's a couple of things you said. One was earlier, interviewing Scott Party, who now has 22 sober living homes. I did an interview here on People, Places, and Parables, and he brought up something really interesting. The reason he started, he was told by his sponsor that nobody's been doing the AA meetings at the Penobscot County Jail. You're going to do them. He went in there and did it, and he witnessed people being released at midnight in Bangor. He said they had no chance. They were going back to, in his words, a crack house or back into the encampments. One of the things that I would love to share, and I was smiling too because he said, you don't know everything. I can't believe how oftentimes I find a grassroots organization that's starting out like we were back in 2011. Now, here's the fun part. Years ago, Tom Grogan, and he's, I can never remember the name. It used to be Centers for Women Working Community, then it changed to something else.
New Ventures Maine.
Thank you, New Ventures Maine. But what was interesting is when we would talk, and before he got into that, he was working for Bangor Housing, and they were discovering a lot of issues in Cape Heart, Old Cape Heart, and New Cape Heart. And what they started doing is community events, and they started doing lunch programs in the summer because a lot of these kids are latchkey kids. Their parents or parent, usually a lot of more single parents than a full family, weren't getting anything to eat. Flash forward with the Wabanaki, Together Place, and Food and Medicine. The Co-Park events are fantabulous. It's the same idea. They reached out to the community, and here's a secret that I've learned, and I know you know this too, but I want to share it with listeners. And I know you're listening out there. There are people out there that have the smarts. They have the heart. They give a damn about other people. They give a darn about their community. But you know what? No one's ever said, hey, you've got a lot of great ideas. Would you like to be involved? That's how I became a board member with an organization. I have volunteered all my life. I became a big brother with Big Brothers Big Sisters because I was helping a person who was going through the correctional system. But I was at the Partnerships for Healthy Communities. It was a great program a number of years ago, and it was based on a thing that they did out in Hawaii, and it was very similar to what you and I are doing with Penobscot County Cares. Well, Dennis Haggerty was an executive with Eastern Maine Healthcare. We were at Eastern Maine Community College, great big forum. All the walls were, folded back. It's a huge group. At one point, he made my millennium. He pointed at me and he said, you have a lot of good ideas. Would you like to be on the board? And of course, quietly, I said, yes, that would be great. On the inside, I'm doing cartwheels because, like a lot of other people out there, a lot of people that would love to get involved have never been asked. We would love to hear from you because people say, oh, I don't like how things are going in politics locally, countywide, statewide, nationally. Well, the neat thing about being an American is you have the right to get involved and do something. And that's why I really am excited about promoting Penobscot County Cares and all the things that we do. There is a great program up, for instance, in Lincoln, Maureen Bean. We met her food pantry up in Burlington helps people from Danforth and Washington County. The collaborations that go on are incredible because years ago when I worked with the March of Dimes and American Cancer Society, you would never, ever collaborate with another nonprofit. I remember the March of Dimes had a great staff person who had a falling out nationally, left, went to multiple sclerosis, which is another fantastic organization, and they decided we're going to do our big walk right before the March of Dimes walk just to spite their face. And the collaborations are everything. So if there are people out there, we would love to hear from you. What are some of the things in the perfect world, apart from you or I winning the Powerball and going out and buying a bunch of decent houses for people? I've seen living situations both as a realtor for 21 years and working in welcome to housing and domestic violence. I knew the minute COVID hit, I knew that domestic violence was going to go through the damn roof because all of a sudden you're together all the time. Your job is at stake. The one silver lining out of COVID, as weird as it sounds, are Zoom meetings. Are those type of meetings because you need to communicate. So in the future, we've got a few minutes left. What were some of the things you'd really like to see PCC do or to see accomplish with the communities that we serve?
Yeah. Well, first, I want to let you know that you're so right about organizations and agencies in the past, I think, being reluctant to collaborate. And that has changed. The issue now is that oftentimes organizations are, particularly smaller ones, are just struggling to survive. So even to get a staff member to come to a 4 o'clock meeting of Penobscot County Cares every other Thursdays is a challenge. Organizations are just trying to make it through the day, and people are just trying to make it through the day. So we still have to work on getting more people to collaborate and to share information through Penobscot County Cares meetings and other ways. But in terms of the issues right now and what can be done, first we have to, as individuals, keep fighting stigma. I understand if you're walking in downtown Bangor and you see people asking for money or behaving a little erratically because, frankly, they may be on some sort of a drug or alcohol. I get it. It can be uncomfortable. But by and large, those individuals are not going to cause you a problem. And we have to realize that the people we are seeing on the streets are often ill. These people, like I was. Now, I hid it pretty well, and I had a home, and I had some resources. But the people we see on the streets that too many of us want to vilify, even ridicule, are sick. Now, if that person had cancer or heart disease and that was their illness, we wouldn't dream of being anything but kind and helpful. But when it's an illness that presents itself in the way that substance use disorder does or other mental illnesses do, schizophrenia, bipolar, even obsessive compulsive disorder, we seem to have less compassion.
Empathy, lack of empathy.
Yeah, these are illnesses. And again, as you've said, and what I think I may not have appreciated years ago, is that there are so many people who are unhoused who are not suffering from a substance use disorder, who are not mentally ill. They've left their home because of domestic violence. They've had a medical emergency that wiped out their resources. Rent and housing costs continue to go through the roof, literally. So there are many reasons why people are homeless. And I just want to make sure that I get this point in before we end. Just in Penobscot and Piscataquis counties, in the homelessness system in Maine, we call that Hub 7, Penobscot and Piscataquis counties, there are 700 distinct individuals, not duplicating, 700 who are unhoused at the end of May, the most recent calculation. Those people are on a list, we call it the by name list, of distinct individuals who are unhoused. That does not include people who have never made it on that list or haven't been in contact with a service provider in a number of days. It might be 90 days. And so those people get moved off the list. But oftentimes they're not moved off the list because they're into housing. They just have not been seen or heard from. Wow. So the number is staggering just in Penobscot and Piscataquis counties. And lots of those people are not suffering from substance use disorder. They are not causing problems. They are trying to survive, and we need to recognize that it's an enormous crisis. So what can we do? We can have more individual empathy. We can turn to our elected officials and just encourage them. Every time a bill comes up or every time there's an opportunity, know that if you are addressing homelessness and substance use disorder, you're not just helping that individual or that family. You're helping entire communities. You're helping the police department to have fewer calls. You're helping the fire department to have fewer calls.
It's all connected.
You're helping business owners to have fewer problems. Business owners in Bangor and elsewhere complain about individuals who may be in their doorway or they feel like are hassling customers. Every time you address the root causes of these issues, homelessness, substance use disorder, other mental illnesses, you are helping entire communities. These are important investments for all kinds of reasons.
And I appreciate that. When I worked at Hope House, there was a national campaign called Treatment Works! And I love the motto that they had. Trying drugs or alcohol is a choice. Getting addicted is not. And I think it's so important to people, especially when people invoke the Bible and invoke Jesus Christ.
Right. Yeah.
Jesus Christ helped everybody. He didn't segregate people. And I think the thing that I've seen in my years of volunteering, as starting as a little kid collecting for UNICEF, is that when people have a hard time donating, it's what they're scared of. I fundraised for Hope House. I sat on the board of RSVP, Retired and Senior Volunteer Program.
Right.
I figured senior citizens would be the easiest people to raise money for. They weren't. Because people are afraid of getting old. People are afraid of what's going on in their head and in their heart, and they don't understand it. people need to realize one thing, and I'm going to quote what I said in Kiwanis years ago to close this out. I said, I hope that one day, either through divine intervention or just plain dumb luck, that simultaneously every man, woman, and child on this planet will realize we are all in it together, and the only reason we're put here is to love and care for each other. Period.
Yeah, so important.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah,
that is our
been a
time.
great conversation.
And I'm really proud of you. I love you, and I love the fact
Thank you.
that, like so many people we see at PCC, they take the time to help other people, because karma, what goes around comes around, works in a good way as well, my friend. Well, that's it for People, Places, and Parables. Thank you once again, Doug Dunbar from Penobscot County Cares. Don't forget, you can find them on Facebook and follow along. And peace out, everybody. Thank you so very much, sir.
Thanks.